Hi everyone, and thank you for having us here today in such beautiful surroundings. I'm Mary Goodchild, this is my colleague Karen Christian. We're from the Natural Environment Research Council. I'm the News and Media Officer for NERC, and Karen works in digital communications for NERC. My background is journalism, so slightly different to many of the people in the room, and Karen is a social media specialist. So today we're going to talk a little bit about a campaign that we ran earlier this year that you might have heard of. And just to start though, I don't know how many people are aware of, have heard of NERC. It's the Natural Environment Research Council. We invest around £330 million a year in high quality environmental science in the UK and in partnerships internationally. And on top of that, about 4 or 5 years ago, the Treasury directly entrusted us with a further £200 million, with which we are to replace 2 of our research ships and build a new polar and marine research ship for the UK. And that will be operated by the British Antarctic Survey, which is a NERC centre. And I don't know if anyone's aware, but we have a rich history of ships already, and they have names such as RRS Ernest Shackleton, or James Clark Ross, or James Cook, or the Discovery. But we decided to do something a little bit different. We decided to do something a little bit different and get a bit of input, I'm going to call it, into the naming of our ship. So we launched a campaign to ask the public for suggestions to name our ship. And it went very well. We had 32,000 name suggestions from members of the public in the UK and abroad. It wasn't just in England. I think I think that's an under-exaggeration, and this was just while the campaign was open, so this is a 6-week period. Around 500,000 visitors to our Name Our Ship microsite, which we had set up specially, and the most popular choice had around 120,000 people who liked it online, and that was Boaty McBoatface. A slightly, I'm going to say, untraditional choice, but I think we embraced it in a spirit of fun, and it caught the attention of various people, a Mail Online journalist to whom we are indebted, to bring it to the public's attention, and also lots of people on social media paid a great deal of attention to it.
So, social media side of things, when we launched the Name Our Ship campaign, my initial social media strategy, I looked at what could go wrong, and my main concern was that we wouldn't get enough attention. So that worked. At no point did I consider we would go viral, and I think my one bit of advice to anybody here today that runs any campaign: plan for that. Put it in there, even if you think it's never going to happen. Put it in your strategy. So we started off with a thunderclap, which is, I guess, a flash mob, I guess, on social media. And we trended on the first day it went out. So the hashtag Name Our Ship trended. We were so excited in the NERC office, we'd never trended before. And we were aiming for about 2 million impressions over the whole 6-week period. And these stats are just for the 6 weeks. This isn't including what's happened over the last 6 months. So we ended up with 2 billion potential Twitter impressions over the 6-week period, which is phenomenal for any campaign to reach those kind of figures. We trended in the UK, which was fantastic. We trended internationally, which was scary. We were popping up all over the world. Australia loved us, the US loved us, Canada. I'm the only social media person in our team, so it was a bit of a headache. Mary and I were both the front line of the campaign, and we didn't sleep much for a few weeks, did we? We were doing the whole news cycle round. You know, England would go to bed, America wakes up, Australia wakes up, and it was just never ending. Fun, but never ending. So here's some more of the stats that we had. We had 130,000 views of a short video that we did. We created a 20-second video. It was very simple. It was just introducing our current ships and asking people to do a quick name, or, you know, send us their naming ideas. It cost us a couple of £100, and it did so well, and it's still being viewed now. We had some longer videos we created that explained our science, explained the work the British Antarctic Survey did. They had 60,000 views, and we used throughout newspapers throughout the world, so all the online editions mentioned those. So we trended around the world. And we also hit an age group we don't really engage with very often in the research councils. So we were very popular with 18 to 34-year-olds that came on board, had great fun with it. And we also had a lot of personal correspondence, so people took the time to actually send emails to us as well, congratulating us on the success, commenting on the names, giving us more ideas for names. Yeah, it was interesting times. We had some amazing tweets, so as well as our community that were tweeting for us, which is fantastic, all the universities, our research councils, our centres were tweeting. The one that made my day was when Iron Maiden tweeted us. That was just my personal favourite. Universal Studios Orlando tweeted us. It was phenomenal, the people that were talking about this, and how people were getting involved with the campaign.
And then a little bit about the media coverage we have. This slide doesn't do justice in any way to the actual volume of coverage that came our way, and a lot of it was being kind of fueled by the social media. So there was a lot of, and anybody who's kind of doing comms nowadays will realise there's a lot of overlap between what happens in social media and in the media. So those two things kind of worked in tandem. We had, I've put at the bottom here, total potential reach, and I think anybody who works in media also knows it's very difficult to measure the impact that you have through this. So that's a total potential reach, as in if everybody who read an individual paper read that story. So it's a kind of number that's more useful comparatively than just on itself, but I think what it says is there was a lot of it. And then during the 6-week period, we measured 2,000 pieces of UK coverage in print and online, so that doesn't include a lot of the blogging, sorry. And yeah, a lot of the blogging that happened. So we had a lot of broadcast coverage in England, UK, and internationally as well. And I think what I would say about it really is that a lot of it was a bit silly, a bit kind of funny. And a lot of it actually had some really good science content. So we had these videos that we mentioned, and we had a lot of information on our website. I think one of the things that we actually managed to do right, despite not anticipating that we were going to get that level of attention, was have all the kind of information in one place. So journalists were actually able to write about the context of why we were building the ship, what it's going to be doing in the oceans and in the polar regions, and why that's important. And because of the actual volume of coverage, it meant that a lot of people who wouldn't have heard of the Natural Environment Research Council and didn't know that the government was spending £200 million on a new ship now knew those things, and they were sort of beginning to understand why as well. And the other point I would make about that, about kind of engaging the audiences, is that anybody who kind of communicates science will probably be aware that it's relatively easy to get into the science pages of a newspaper. You know, you get into the somebody clicks on the science tab, and somebody who is already interested in science will read about what you're doing. It's not very easy to get on the front page. It's not very easy to get on the home page. And it's not very easy to engage people who aren't already interested in science. And I think the coverage around Boaty McBoatface kind of provided a way in for people who sort of thought, oh, that's really funny. I can't believe the British government is going to call a ship Boaty McBoatface. And then they would click on the story, and then they would be brought information they didn't necessarily come there for. So there was a real value in that. And yeah, that's just kind of continuing that point really, that it also kind of provided a platform for our expert spokespeople. So there you can see Emily Shuckborough, who is a polar explorer and is likely to be working on the new ship. And also this is Linton Roberts from Camel Laird, who's building the ship, who was able to talk about some of the specifics and the engineering capability that it will have. So that was the kind of content that we were managing to bring people through this kind of slightly trivial suggestion that we got. And then we actually decided to call it Sir David Attenborough. This was the fourth most popular decision, so it was a very popular suggestion that we had, and it better fitted with our original objectives, which was to find a name that kind of encapsulated the kind of inspirational side of what the ship would be doing. So we felt that was what did Joe Johnson say? More appropriate, more fitting, I think he said. And this was the front page of the London Evening Standard. It was actually the day that the mayoral election result was announced. So I think, one, it's great that we got the splash over that, but secondly, I think the Evening Standard wasn't very keen on the guy that won. And here we are. So this is our RRS Sir David Attenborough that will set sail in 2019 to carry out research at the poles and in the oceans to address some pressing environmental issues that we've been hearing about this morning. And Boaty McBoatface, who we've decided to name as an auto-sub long range, which will be operated on board the ship by the National Oceanography Centre, and a couple of the guys are here, so if you want to learn more about that, I suggest you go and speak to them. And also the government announced a £1 million programme, which is going to be the Polar Explorer programme, that will be rolled out in schools across the UK, starting in the Northwest and starting in schools that are underperforming in STEM subjects. So that will include learning about Boaty McBoatface, what the autonomous sub will be doing, and also what David Attenborough, Sir David Attenborough at the ship will be doing. I'll hand back to Karen to talk a bit about how that decision was received.
So we had a lot of data out of this, a lot of figures we couldn't deal with, just big numbers. But one thing we found useful to look at was the sentiment analysis to see how people were reacting to the new name. Anybody that works in social media in the natural environment sciences and has used sentiment analysis may realise that there are certain words it picks up that it's always going to have issues with. So a scientist releases a new paper on tsunami, on a volcano, on an earthquake. Sentiment analysis goes, ooh, that's negative. So it's an interesting tool to work with, but it can be quite difficult within our speciality, or specialism. But we were lucky. The name was received quite well. People did get on board. David Attenborough is such a beloved figure in England, around the world. So it was the correct name to go for. The public loved the idea. We had a few negative comments. There was the Boaty Brigade still wanting Boaty to be the name. But overall, we were very lucky with how everyone reacted to it. And I think it was through management by ourselves, through the government, through our centres. Everybody worked together to get the message on point. We were all saying the same thing. We had prepared a whole media package, Twitter cards, a lot of positive messages and images to go out, and we just flooded social media with those images on that day, and it did work in our favour.
And just as a kind of summary, we had, as Karen said, we had a lot of correspondence, we had a lot of emails sent in, we had a lot of people calling the office, and this was one guy who called and said this to me, a dad from the northwest of England, who said that he would never have heard of NERC if it wasn't for Boaty McBoatface, and now his kids are excited about what the ship will do in Antarctica, and I think that sort of summed up why we thought the whole thing was a triumph. And a couple of points just to kind of back that up, that we did raise the profile, people now know about our ship, definitely engage new audiences. That's difficult to measure, but we do know that people who wouldn't have necessarily known about the science that we do now do know about it, and that's very positive for us. Increased brand awareness for us and our centres, and inspired continued interest, so that hopefully when David Attenborough sets sail in 2019, lots of people are going to want to know about it, and that's a triumph for us. So.
Yeah, and this is just, it's never ending, to be fair. So as I said, the stats for the 6 weeks were 2 billion. We're ending the year nearer 3 billion. Every time somebody comes up with an idea to name something new, we get mentioned, and it's great because people do still mention NERC. It's not just Boaty. People talk about the science and they talk about the polar ship. But yeah, naming planes, naming trains. Boaty McBoatface was a Brexit one. We won't go into that one. With the horse, we've recently had a gritter. One of our local councils wanted to name a gritter. So that was a campaign. There's been ships, liners, ferries, everything.
I think in summary, it's not going away. So
we're sorry for that.
Yeah. Thank you.